Every shepherd needs a wolf, but every wolf doesn't need a shepherd. Let me explain this. Sheep, if they were wild, would be the prey of the wolf. However, if they're tamed and domesticated and, quote, taken care of by a shepherd, they have to worry less about this wolf because they've got a life that appears to them as having relative security or peace. However, they're guarded and they're herded around by the shepherd's dogs that nip at their heels and keep them in line. And eventually they're going to be slaughtered just the same as if they were taken out by a wolf. And they're likely to be slaughtered in the prime of their life when they're at their healthiest and their fattest. And that very rarely happens if a wolf predates on a pack. They normally take either the young or the old or the sick and infirm. They keep the pack healthy. They keep the herd healthy. Now, the shepherd needs that wolf. He needs that specter of fear of the outside to be cast into the herd of sheep so that they trust and, quote, choose the shepherd to be their protector or their governor, if you will. The wolf absolutely needs nothing from the shepherd at all. The wolf is perfect as it is. It realizes that it has innate, intuitive, and instinctual abilities, not to mention its intelligence, which provide it everything that it needs as long as the earth is free. The sheep, on the other hand, somehow or another have been led astray, and they've been duped into believing that they're not better off free, that because the specter of the wolf out there exists, that they should trust the governor to protect them, when in reality he shears their wool, takes their lovely fleece, takes their babies and makes veal out of them, and like I said, slaughters them in the prime of their life, usually when they're at their fattest and healthiest. They rarely get a chance to live to old age, to achieve infirmity, and all the infirmities and sicknesses they get come from living in their enclosed environments, too close to each other and not being free to roam. Well, this is very much akin to humans and our condition. Without a specter of a wolf outside, the government, the shepherd, would have no real leverage, so to speak, to convince the sheep that they should stay within the confines of their pens, their walls, their fences, what have you. The government needs a specter of terror or fear to be cast into the population in order to help them choose the bondage that they are in. Take Catholicism or Christianity or any of the world's religions, for instance. They use a very similar method, as religion and government are not divided. They're one and the same. The church actually has a vested interest in maintaining the idea that a devil exists outside of the self, that amorphous subjective force that we all encounter in life called temptation, the lower vibrations of anger, fear, etc., we have a choice to make in those times, to say no to them and to choose something else, because we're multidimensional beings. We can choose to love, we can choose to have compassion, we can choose to have forgiveness, we can choose to forgive and forget and move on. We can choose to have dignity and respect for each other. However, it's much easier to keep us controlled so that others can be free and live the life of a wolf, so to speak. The life of a wolf that has a herd that it can access and raid whenever it wants to, so it doesn't actually have to worry about, the survival aspect of nature. It's just a big, fat, greedy wolf. It needs that specter of an actual physical, embodied devil, if you will, or evil outside of the self for people to point the finger at, so they don't have to take personal responsibility for themselves and their own free will. And then they can choose someone else, some benevolent spirit, so to speak, like a pope, if you will, to guide them and to shield them from the outside forces. Oh, and if you live in a secular state, so-called secular state, then it's the government, the police, the authorities who you choose to guard you from these outside sources. Instead of taking it upon yourself to use your natural instincts, intuition, intelligence to take care of yourself. It doesn't have to be a dog-eat-dog world, because we're smart enough to realize that the world is capable and the earth is capable of producing a bounteous abundance, especially if we use our intelligence and we don't waste things like we've been wont to do for a very long time. She produces abundantly. Her tits produce milk in an endless stream, as long as we don't bite the nipple and she kicks us off the tit. We can continue to suckle, because Mother Earth loves us. We're her children, just like we're the children of the sky and of the heavens. We're a mixture of both, and we're a harmony between the two. And that's a secret. It's an esoteric secret that's taught in all the world's religious texts, but hidden in a veil of allegory, occulted, if you will, is that we all contain the forces within us of both good and evil, of sin and saint. Every breath we take in a mortal, spiritual, three-dimensional body is a sin, because we're moving closer to perishing, to death. However, that death is nothing more than a portal. It's a transformation, it's a disillusionment into be dissolved into another solution, of which we can then be re-solidified in some other crystalline form or shape in a new creation. This is all a process of transformation and transmutation. And when we realize that we are the sovereigns, that we do not have to be sheep, we do not have to be greedy wolves, we can be free beings and live on this earth bounteously, abundantly, and joyously as individuals, choosing to be part of a larger collective that doesn't need necessarily a centralized leader or shepherd to guide us, and we certainly don't need dogs nipping at our heels to keep us within certain confines, that we should be able to travel wherever we wish, whenever we wish, as long as we have the means, as long as we're not taking more than we're giving, as long as there's a balance being struck. And trust me, no matter what, if you're taking more than you're giving, or you're giving more than you're taking, you're creating an imbalance, and the universe will right that some way or another. So we should all just try to achieve harmony within ourselves, to subjugate, if you will, the lower natures, the lower vibrations, the sinful nature of ourselves, to the spiritual nature of ourselves as much as possible. And in doing so, we will collectively ascend or advance towards higher dimensions of reality and existence, because the frequency of vibration of which we emit consciously increases when we do that. And it's just the same as matter. There are different phases of matter, the most energetic phase being plasma. And you can get plasma from discharging an arc of electricity onto a solid steel plate. Boom! It turns instantly to plasma, and then it transmutes that metal into other different types of metals. That's sort of an analogy or an allegory for consciousness and enlightenment. Don't be afraid. Let go as things appear to be dissolving into disillusion. You know, you're losing the illusion. Things that we've held on to as being real or true are being challenged every day. This is a quest for us to journey into ourselves and find that truth.